Morning. Okay, we'll just do it in here. Okay, so can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start by just creating a new project from scratch. So right click on new, click on Spring Starter Project. Okay, this is still the same as normal. Instead of name, we'll call this Java Java intro. Okay, packaging, make sure it's a WAR file, not routing. Java intro. Yeah.
What's the difference between that WAR file and the other one?
Yeah, so the WAR file stands for Web Archive File. Okay, and it's just as opposed to JAR, which is just Java Archive File, and Web Archive File is just for web applications.
Can you always change it back if you forget?
It's a good question. I've never forgotten. So I don't know. Possibly.
So I'm assuming it's been the default since you started?
No. That's a good question. I don't know if you can switch it back.
You can change it in the Maven configuration. You can go back and forth.
Oh.
There you go.
So jar is
Java. Web is for WAR is for web.
If you do the jar file, you can run the jar file and it like runs its own little mini web server, kind of like in Flask and Django.
Wait, is it not doing that otherwise?
In the WAR file, it's kind of like, I'm assuming you already have a web server, and I'm just going to package everything together and put it on your web server.
Oh, nifty. So do we have to do .web at the end of the group?
No.
But why have I been doing .web this whole time?
Okay.
Well, then, yeah.
Okay. So package name, reverse domain name, right? Same as the group name. Your description, you can change that how you like. Then we click next. So we already have been using Spring Web, right? And also Spring DevTools. Now we're also going to include MySQL. So if you just search for it, MySQL driver, okay, installs MySQL, and then JPA for ORM. Okay, those 4 things. Then you can click finish.
It's like spa, but with a J instead of an S.
Okay. Wait for this to finish loading. So when I build this, I usually start from the back, meaning start from this guy, and then work my way back to building up to my controller. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. So inside of our source main Java intro, right? Remember, we have to make all of our packages as children packages of the main one. So when you right click, you're going to click new package, and then this package is going to be models. Okay, so you just add a .models at the end, and this is where you're going to build all of your classes that will resemble a MySQL table. Okay, so what's the example that they bring in here? JPA. Nope. Oh, here. They do a books one. Okay, so now inside here, inside of our models, we'll create our books class. So create a new class called book, singular. Okay, I'm just gonna copy and paste it in here and we'll talk about it. Just up to this guy. Okay, So when you copy and paste it, all these annotations in here, right? You just got to import them with Control or Command Shift O. Make sure you're importing the correct one, the correct libraries.
How would we know?
So far, it's just the first one that's there. This one, use the util date instead of the SQL date. Okay, and they should all be there. So now let's talk about these annotations here. So this first one, we talked about how important and how powerful these annotations can be, right? So without these annotations, this is just a regular book class that we can instantiate, right? So now with these annotations, specifically this one, add entity, this is now assigning this class to be a table entity in a MySQL database. Okay, just with this simple annotation, it now is a table in MySQL. Okay, so it's assigning the table name called books. This ID is now assigning this attribute as an ID of the table. Okay, and then generated value, this annotation just auto increments each time there's a new instance created.
And long just means like really long number or potentially very long number.
Really big int, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. What was that?
64 bits, I think.
Right. Okay, and then size, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory. So it's a min. This is like validations. Okay, it's got to be a minimum of 5 characters and a maximum of 200 characters. Okay, this one has to be a minimum of 100. Number of pages, 100 is the minimum number that this attribute can be. Here's our created at and updated at, right? And then here are our constructors. And then this getters and setters, or not getters and setters, this pre-persist and pre-update, these are only invoked, this one is only invoked when it's instantiated, this one's invoked when it's updated.
So what does that do? That's just feeding the time into your updated at and created at?
Yeah. So it's setting this instance as created at to a new date time when it's created, and the updated at to a new date time when it's updated. Yeah.
Are you able to do it through MySQL and have it like auto-populate and jump?
Yeah. Well, that's what the JPA will do for us. It's going to auto-populate or auto-create this table for us in MySQL.
He wants it the other way around. He wants to
Yeah.
make it out of a
Can you
picture.
do it the other way around?
Oh. Can you do it the other way around? I would guess no. Can you create a MySQL table and it convert into a class in Java?
There are tools to do that, but they're sort of imperfect. It's like, it feels very clunky.
Yeah, you don't want to do that anyways.
You can do it.
Probably. Okay. Any questions on any of these things?
That's kind of like a copy and paste sort of thing anyway, right? Like, pretty standard.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Exactly. Right. We know how to set a title. These are like just any attributes that we've been setting before. Now we're just adding these annotations to it.
And like many to many type of things. Or-
We'll get into that.
I'm just excited, sorry.
Okay. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we can generate our getters and setters. And if you do Option Command S, you can say generate getters and setters. Select all of your attributes and generate, and it'll create all of them for you.
Wow.
How did you do that again?
I'm not telling you. I'm just kidding. It's a right click,
Right.
go to source, and then generate getters and setters. And then it's the same thing for constructor. You can generate constructor. You can generate all of this automatically with that command as well.
I like it.
Your model.
This class is constructor.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So far, so good. Next step here is to create our repository. Okay, so for our repository, we're going to create a new package. Okay, so right click on the parent package, create a new package, dot repositories. Okay, and then inside of our repositories, we're going to create not a class, but an interface here. Okay, and we'll call this book repository.
Sounds like a wonderful place.
So inside of this book repository, we have to assign this interface to be a repository. So we add the repository annotation, and then we're also going to extend the CRUD repository. Okay, we have to assign the, not song, book,
That'd be fun.
the class for the repository, and then the ID type, which is just going to be long. Okay, we import everything, and we get no errors. So the CRUD repository, we're extending it, and what the CRUD repository is just a bunch of, the JPA that allows us to call on methods for like all of the CRUD operations, like creating, deleting, updating, all that stuff, querying for specific data. It all is going to come from the CRUD repository. Okay, so that's why we don't have to actually write out our queries to insert and create and delete and update, because it's already been created for us. We just have to use the methods that actually do it.
So CRUD repository is something established already?
Yes, correct. Okay,
It came from the import, right?
right. Okay, so next step here is to create our service. Okay, so that's going to require another package. Create new package, and this is where all of our services will go, so we'll call it services. And inside of our service, we'll create a new class, and we'll call it book service. Okay, same thing here. We have to annotate this to be a service. And then inside of the service, we have to have our service be able to communicate with our CRUD, with our repository, right? We talked about how the service is the one that queries for all of the, or handles the business logic for us. So inside of the platform, you might see something like this: private, final, book repository. And then the constructor, service,
Final means it can't be changed at all?
right. Okay. Import. So this is how we will create an instance of the book repository, so we can then call on the book repository's methods and stuff. This is how it shows you in the platform, but what I'll instead, they updated it, so now they created an annotation called AutoWire, and you can just say public, public book repository, and then give it a name. Is it AutoWired? It is AutoWired. Okay, so now you can do these two lines instead of all of this.
That's good.
Okay. Alrighty. So one of the methods, like for example, let's say get all of the books. Okay, we're going to call on this from our controller. So let's return a list of books, and we'll call it get all books method. Okay, and it's going to return a method called find all. Okay, so where does this method come from? The CRUD repository. Okay, it already exists, so we don't have to create it. Okay, but one thing is in here, inside of our repository, the way that it's returned is what's called an iterable, which is not what we want, a list of books, right? So we have to sort of change it to be a list. and then we'll add this to our interface. Okay, so we're just typecasting it to a list of books rather than an iterable, and then we're calling on this method. So now this find all method is part of our interface, which we have to use. Okay?
But that's not where we're writing the actual method. The method gets written.
The method is already written in the CRUD repository.
Oh, okay.
It just returns an iterable, and what we're doing here is typecasting it to a list of books instead.
And the CRUD repository is a class.
Right.
So an iterable is like an object that we can't look at.
There's an object you can
It's-
kind of iterate over.
It's more like an array,
And we
but not the
just-
kind that, because inside of our front end we have to iterate through it, the JSP doesn't like it. So we have to just cast it to a list. Okay? Why does it not like you?
I don't know. It hurts my feelings.
What did I call it up here?
Find all.
I did call it find all.
Did you save it?
Yes.
Book repo dot.
Oh, duh. Okay, so it belongs to the book repo, right? So we have to call it book repo.findAll because that's who the method belongs to. Make sense?
And then when we want to call this public method get all books,
It's going to be called from our controller.
and it'll just be like book service dot get all books,
Correct.
or book service instance get all books.
Yeah. And we'll do that now. So now we're getting to our controller. Okay, we create a new package for all of our controllers. And then inside of our controller, we'll create a new class. I'll just call it home controller.
Which package have our static files in it?
None of the package. It's inside of your source main resources folder.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. So here, this is our controller. I think for the first assignments, it's going to have you do a REST controller.
Didn't we stop doing that and just do a regular?
Yeah, I thought the controller, REST controller was when you were just like spitting a string into the.
Right, and that's what the assignments has you do. So
Regressing.
I think update and delete, it just has you build the API, a book's API. So you're going to be sending and receiving JSON data.
Oh, neat.
Okay, just to practice some of the CRUD operations. So I'll be using Postman for this. Have you guys used Postman before?
No.
It's
Not
okay.
here.
It's just another service that allows us to send requests. It's a pretty awesome tool. But I believe it's in here somewhere to
It was in the
install.
meeting.
Yeah. So that's what you use. Instead of using a view or a JSP to see your data and send data, Postman will take care of that part for you. So you can send data via Postman and receive data via Postman instead of a browser. Okay.
Everybody get ready for a lot of renditions of Please Mr. Postman.
Sure. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing, auto-wired, to import our book service. Okay, I'll just call it book serve. Okay, and then we can build our first route. So at get mapping. Actually, I'm gonna just do a regular controller for the sake of this example. Get mapping to the root route, public string root, and we're gonna return, what are we returning? Books slash index.jsp, not HTML, JSP. Okay. Questions so far? We went over a lot.
Is there a request mapping? Can we get mapping?
Yeah. Maybe you weren't here. This is a shortcut for a get route.
Okay.
If you want to do a post route, you do post mapping instead.
So what's a request
It's just a way to define within that annotation what type of route it is. So request mapping, well, get mapping is a shortcut for request mapping.
So if I did request mapping, I still have to like say it was a get or something like
Well, by default, it is a get, I believe.
Did I have to say it was a post?
It's a post or delete or put, or you can use the annotations to do it. Get mapping. Okay. Now that we have that set up,
Did you make your index.jsp file yet, or?
nope,
Okay.
we have not yet. So we have to do that too. So in order to do that, we have to go to our resources folder, to our applications properties, and point it there, right? So that's a spring.mvc.view.prefix webinf. Okay. Then inside of our source main web app, we can build a new folder called webinf. And then in here, we'll build a new folder called books. And then in here, we'll build a new folder, well, not new folder, new file, a JSP file called index.jsp. Okay, and that's that. So this should just say, hello world of books. Okay. Alrighty, so if we spin this up, we should be good, right? Java intro. Let's run and see what happens. Okay, he's got the jokes.
All the jokes?
You and I the whole weekend. No.
Yeah, Keon, bring out your.
Come on, Keon.
I don't want your mom jokes. Can I just say them like a general thing? Not like.
Maybe once, mom.
Like one person.
Once mama. Once mama is so fat.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we got an error here. Application failed to start. Failed to configure data source URL attribute is not specific embedded data source. So this is saying that we failed to specify where our database is supposed to be going to. Right? We installed MySQL, so our application is expecting a database, but this error is saying we haven't established what that database is yet. So inside of the platform, under the connect to MySQL, we just have to copy and paste this stuff here. Okay. So first, let's go to MySQL Workbench and create the database.
So over there, you're just gonna create the schema, right? You're no longer.
Well, we made
Correct.
it already.
Tables and all that.
We're creating the database here, and then our classes create the tables.
So it's not as good as Django in that it doesn't do everything for us.
Sure. Yeah, Django is using SQLite.
That's true. But you can also migrate it to normal SQL, right? So
Then it's
Can.
not really important.
it's not- oh.
Okay, so this is going to be called books schema. Okay, default character set, UTF-8, apply, and here's my book schema.
So let's see.
Okay, my book schema right now is empty with no tables. So let's try to fix this and paste it here
In the application section.
in the application.properties folder.
So order matters?
Not really, it's just my preference. Okay, so now it's saying go to localhost port 360 / your schema name. So this will be book, plural? Book schema?
I think let's look split. Singular.
Plural.
Close. Plural, sorry.
Books plural.
I'm full of lies.
Okay, and then our DB user should be
Loser.
root. And our password to our MySQL server is root. Okay,
And hypothetically, if one were to have not root as a password, I would want to add that to get ignored.
right. Okay, let's restart the server and try it again.
Oh.
I like it.
That was a good one.
That's pretty good. I like the dramatic pause too. Like you were really thinking about it. Like
I was seriously trying to answer that. I was like, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock
Knock, knock.
after lecture.
actually, I do need to go to the dentist. What's a good lecture to miss?
Oh, okay.
Next one, next one.
You guys gonna watch the Blue Angels this week?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. So we get this error, time zone error.
Did,
Oh yeah, these are all the errors they said we would run into.
Yeah. So that's good.
that's so good.
All you got to do is just add this little thing to the end of your schema.
Well, why didn't they just put that in the original thing?
Doesn't always count.
Because it wasn't always there.
Sure.
This just happened like this past time zone. I wonder once the time changes again if it'll be fixed and we don't have to do this, but yeah. Anyways, you just gotta add this to the end of it if you get the error. If you don't, then you don't have to worry about it. Loading class, depending, you can safely remove, okay. So we can add that and we can remove this line here. So now let's try it again.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Goliath.
Blind who?
Goliath down, you looking tired.
Goliath down. You looking tired.
That was a good one.
Did you hear about the programmer found in his shower lying dead of exhaustion and dehydration
What?
while the water ran over his face?
That's not
He
funny.
was holding a shampoo bottle that said lather, rinse, repeat with no. He gets it.
Keep going out.
Infinite loop. Okay. Okay. So no errors this time. We were able to fix that. So if we check our MySQL book schema, refresh this, now we have a table here of books. And we can query it, and there's all of our stuff.
What do you think you'd like run out of shampoo?
He did run out of shampoo, but I guess he must have been continuing to try. Because it didn't say to stop when you run out of shampoo. He was totally trying to get
Interesting.
lathered on with no shampoo, and that's what happened.
He should have run a fine print.
That's cool that it made our table.
Yes, I thought it's pretty cool too, guys.
I love it.
Thank you for
Is your
showing.
mind's not blown right now, or what?
My mind is blown, but I'm also suffering from an infinite loop. So.
Okay, now that we've created our tables for us, what else do we need? We should be able to go to this route then.
Yay!
That was so much work to go to a route.
It was. We're gonna see Hello World.
There were like a lot of really lame jokes there.
Oh, man.
Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself.
All right, so we get a white label there.
Even all that.
What's going on here? Web inf/book/index.jsp. There's a slash there. Okay, let me stop this and run it again.
I bet Daniel and Thomas and Karina are watching this video in the future and feeling jealous because of all the fun jokes.
I hope so.
I have more jokes if you need them.
It seems like
Yes,
you need them.
it's time.
What's green and red and spitting really fast? A frog in the blender.
Oh no! Oh no!
What happens when you drink it?
What
What
happened?
happens when you drink the fog in the blender?
You stroke.
I got it.
Jokes are getting darker
Alright.
and darker.
So frog in a blender is darker than the programmer?
Frog in a blender? Like, what are we
I like how you value different lives differently. Yeah. Programmer, yeah, it's kind of dark. Frog, oh my goodness. No, I'm broken that way too.
I don't know why this is not working.
One small.
It doesn't make a difference. You're just all.
I like the EO excellent.
Oh shoot!
Let's get spin on
I think I know why it's not working.
it. He thought it was a good EO excellent.
Refresh. Okay, so don't forget a couple of things that you need to have to do in order to configure this correctly. What do we need to import for our JSP files?
That like C.
This letter
Oh.
C equals.
In our pom.xml file,
Oh, and we have to.
Oh, you have to
a
add
bunch of
the
dependencies.
the dependencies.
Tomcat,
Jasper.
Tomcat embedded Jasper,
And then JSTL.
JSTL. Where are those things at?
Well, we can direct them to those.
Yeah, I know how to get there.
Come on.
It's just
Who knows where the JSTL code is?
I think it's just an add.
Just go to-
Just a copy paste.
There's
Just
an
type
add
it.
thing inside.
It auto populates for you.
Okay, so we go to our pom.xml. Make sure you add that in there.
Why don't you just go to the dependencies?
Oh, I'm just used to copying and pasting it. You mean in here you can search for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could do that too.
But that also takes forever if it's not ready.
Okay. Hopefully this works. I think that's the only thing I forgot to do.
I have more jokes.
I'm ready. Bring them on.
That's in the JSP file.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Panther.
Panther who?
Panther no pants. I'm going with women. Come on, so nice.
Still nothing. Okay, that didn't work. Path with web for meta /books/index.
Does your JSP file have that thing in it too?
Yeah, at the top of your JSP file,
What was
just
it?
so put in something.
The tag.
Up here?
The tag
Isn't it
lib
supposed to put
prefix?
itself there?
Don't you need a tag lib prefix?
Oh, the C library?
That's only if we're gonna like have that.
Yeah, if we're gonna use the C, but I can't even render the page right now. Come on, man.
Oh, did you return index.jsp?
I did.
No.
So it's something I can see what's wrong, but I'm not quite sure. It's not pointing to it for some reason.
Why did you put it in? I don't know, this probably is mine.
Are there any errors?
Huh?
Are there any like errors or warnings?
No errors here. There's a. It's not pointing to my WebINF folder correctly.
Is your bug supposed to be in front of index?
How about just like throw my.
Say it again.
Did you have bugs /index.jsp?
Uh huh.
Is the bug supposed to be in front?
Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pointing inside the WebINF to /books and then /index.jsp.
Does it need to be right there /book/index/?
What if we just start adding
Possibly.
them there?
No, I don't think so because I added a slash at the end of WebINF, so the slash is there. Otherwise, it might be like double slash.
Yeah.
You should probably consult with me.
I'm gonna guess and say that this is just like I bet if I built this again, yeah, I won't have the problem again.
It can still run.
If you quit.
Well, it's not even going into WebINF right now.
Wait, what about when you like just turn off your whole everything and then turn it back on?
Not public.
Like even my computer,
Everything.
Program or
browser.
even the recording.
No, not the record. Never the recording. You can't do them like that.
This
You need
is
to be here for
weird.
every moment of this glory.
I wonder. Let me just try one more thing. If not,
We usually have to create a new workspace for each project, right?
not workspace. No.
Workspace is like whole.
The workspace is the whole space that you work in.
of work. I mean, I put everything in its own folder.
Yeah, well, it's a folder.
That's the workspace.
But the folders are in the workspace. Like when you have folders in the file in your office. If you had an office.
The workspace is the cabinet.
What? A workspace would be the tab.
That is a better analogy, yeah.
Inside the cabinet.
Because you don't really put folders into other folders. It's a big space.
So why do bees
buzz.
Fuzzy.
Well, you'd buzz too if someone stole your honey and nectar.
That's just sad though.
I would beat him up.
It was like
Okay.
honey
I would buzz
and
him up.
Okay. It worked.
Oh, cool.
Oh, now we get it.
Okay, I got it to work, and all I did was copy and paste the entire thing, and I ran the copied one,
Nice.
and it worked for that one. So it was just something finicky about STS, I guess. I don't. It's whatever.
We have a new pixel on SDS, I guess.
Okay. So from here, one important thing is to use. We have to. Let's make a call all the way out to our JSP. So from our controller here, let's get all the books. Okay. So we're gonna get a list of books, and we'll call it all books,
Can you explain the vectors to me?
and it's gonna equal our book serve dot get all books method. Remember this one that we created?
Yes.
Okay.
So long ago.
Import the books, import the list class. And so now inside of our service,
It has a little star. Inside.
okay, inside of our service, we created this get all books method, which is calling on the book repo dot find all method. And it's returning that. So all of our books should be inside here. Now, if we want to put it in the front end or to our JSP, how do we do that?
You need the method or models?
Model. So model, okay, and then model dot add attribute, and we'll call this books, and all books. Okay, questions here?
So then when we're referring to it in the JSP, we call it books.
Books, yes. Key value. Key value. Okay. So now inside of our JSP, we can, what do we need? The C library thing? Is it in here?
There's nothing in it to see.
No, it's not in here. Yeah. Okay, where's that at? It's in.
Add taglet prefix, you'll see.
I'd rather copy and paste it.
URI equals HTTP.
Oh, here it is. Okay, why do we use the C library? Yeah, that's true, right? What if I had model dot add attribute, and let's just call this name, and the value will be Joanna, right? So if I had Joanna inside of my index.jsp to print it, come on, can I just go like this and put name? Will that work?
See out. See out. See.
Well, will this work?
Yeah, it will work.
It will work.
What? Then why would we ever bother with see out?
Right, that's a good question.
We wouldn't.
Isn't C out more for like equations and functions and stuff, like when you're performing an action, as opposed to just printing?
It's part of it. How do you do? This is JavaScript, right? I think it's alert.
Alert.
Okay, so this is JavaScript, right? Okay, so if someone were to put this in a form inside my controller, instead of Joanna, I put that.
Oh, so it's protected.
Mm-hmm.
You need those slashes.
You probably want to do single quotes. Maybe?
Can't do single quotes.
Oh. No, I mean in the JavaScript though. Like
Yeah.
inside.
Maybe, we'll see. Usually this might be coming from a form, which we will try to replicate if we have time.
Yay, time.
Okay, refresh. See, now we look like a fool.
It's okay.
Okay, we'll try this again with an actual form. Okay, so inside of this index.html, we want to display all of the books. Okay, let's just create a what's the thing for the for loop in C library? C for each, I believe. For items will be book, and items equals
I think you're thinking
books.
or I actually could be wrong. I mean, that's not remarkable. I'm often wrong, but okay. I just wanted to
There's
acknowledge I
something
don't know what I'm
similar
talking
where
about.
it's double.
What's the thing? Value. Oh, not this. Book. And then close B there. Okay, so here's our for loop to loop through our books object, all the books, and then printing out all of the books inside of our class. Shoot, we don't have any books yet.
Mix of books.
Okay. Who remembers the insert query? Insert into books,
Just type it in the typing type.
because I want to do multiple.
Fair.
Insert into books. I think we need title, language, description, number of pages, and created that,
You do it in the
Oh.
typing type and then copy the.
and updated that.
Created that and updated that automatic or inserted.
I think so.
But we still have to put it in there.
Oh, is it
I
automatically
don't-
created in the?
It might be. I don't remember fully, but we'll try it.
I mean, I think.
Is it values or value?
Value.
Values. Value. Okay, title. I need a book title.
Gone with the wind.
Gone. Next.
Another
With.
book.
No, language, English, description, good. Number of pages needs to be at least 100, 102. And then now and now. Okay, insert. And it worked. From books. Okay, what's another one?
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Harry. UK.
Yeah.
Real good. 1,000. And now, okay, this one. Okay, now we got 2. Let's just do one more. Algos. JavaScript. Tough. 1,000. Okay. Okay, those are our 3 books. So we should be able to query for these books here in our controller. Oops. List all books. Let me just print it out just to make sure. Print ln. And I'm just gonna books. Oh, all books. Okay, so we should see it up here as soon as it's done loading. Anybody?
I gave a lot.
You did. Suzanne's been carrying us. Bueller.
We lost Peanut. Where do you go?
Bueller. Okay, here we go. Book, book, book. Oh, what am I missing here?
You have name, title. Title
I
name?
do mine. Title.
Book dot title. Okay,
Oh,
and there's our
very
3 books. Okay, so that's the whole process. We didn't create it, but we were able to query for the data, right? And we followed the entire process. So our HTTP request response process goes as follows. We hit this request to go to this route, the root route. Okay, it comes to our controller to this root route. We create a list or book variable to store a list of books by calling on our book.service to get all books method. Whoops. And then go to our service. This returns the find all method from our book repo. So when we go here, we get this where it's casted to a list of books and invokes the find all method that belongs to our CRUD repository. Okay, and then it eventually comes back to the controller where we add it into our model attribute under the key books. Okay, and then inside of our index page, we loop through it and list all the titles, and we get all of our books. Not too bad, right?
It's wonderful.
Is item something you chose?
No. So that's the C out. So var is the single item, and then items is the list that we're trying to iterate through.
So this is like the C out version of a for loop.
Right. Okay. The reason why we use the C out is for sanitation. It sanitizes our stuff for us. Okay, because you can embed other code inside of a form. If you don't sanitize it and just display the raw data, then you open yourself to a lot of danger. Okay, so always use the cout library. Okay, well that's the whole process. It's quite a jump, but it's a necessary jump. Just like anything, we'll get used to it. We just gotta do it over and over again, practice it. Okay? Any questions on this? Okay, like I said, if you haven't gotten up to this assignment yet, just go ahead and stop where you are and just jump on SpringData I. Okay? And work on those assignments from here on out. Continue to update the Excel sheet up here. Where's it at? Continue to update this Excel sheet with the assignments that you're working on. End of day goal today is to start the Lookify assignment before the end of the day. Right. And then tomorrow, tomorrow. You alright, Kat? Moment of silence. Kat is dying. Okay, start the Lookify. Tomorrow's end of day goal assignment is to finish Lookify before the end of tomorrow. And we'll talk about a lot of the CRUD stuff tomorrow, too. Okay? Any questions besides our algos today at 2 o'clock? Okay, and that'll be all week long. Our schedule will be, our discussion will be at 10, algos will be at 2. Okay? Yes, so let's do it, let's break up into groups and we'll do the update and delete assignment in groups. Okay? Since we are now all on the same assignment.
Yay!
Let's count 2, 3. Yeah?
1,
2, 3.
1. Wow, crap.
3.
Oh crap, was that what you said?
She's too honest. And the good thing this is recorded. Everyone knows how you feel and they get to.
Oh, that's not true. Come on. All right, well, that's, are there any questions?
Wait, we forgot my number.